Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Charles on the channel Books on Stereo. I'm here today with probably one of the steamiest authors that I've ever have gotten to talk to, Vivian Wood. How are you doing today?
Good, good. I'm enjoying the long day here on the West Coast. So, mhm.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
And the first question I have to ask you is like, how did you get started with writing romance? Were you always a romance reader and then you just decided to, hey, I want to try my hand in writing a romance?
That's an interesting question. I remember getting being like 10 or 11 and getting those like dog-eared copies of the historical romances
Hmm.
from like a church like bargain bin box. And
Hmm.
I always I skipped the steamy scenes because I didn't obviously have the capacity for that, but like I read through the rest of it very quickly. And so I've always um been sort of a romance reader. Um, and when I was in college, I went to school for creative writing, and I found that I had like so much writing to do, so much reading to do, also.
Hmm.
Um, and the only thing that was really left over for me in that time was like something that I could read really fast and like not remember much of. So that's when I really began reading romance again. So
Oh, okay. And it's funny
uh,
that you mentioned that, like, you used to skip the steamy parts, because like,
yep.
your books are so steamy. There's some scenes I was, like, just before I hopped on, I'm listening to Wild Hearts.
Yeah.
That's the last audiobook I have from you that I haven't read, and I was like, "Let me
Mhm.
go," and I was like, "Oh, oh." I was like, "Vivian, oh." I was like
Yeah.
I thought the Royals was, like, the height of the
Mm.
steam. And then I
Yeah.
found your obsession duo, and I was like, "Oh, oh." I was like, I need more dark I need that more darkness from you in the future." I
Yeah.
got a little bit in the patron and the dancer. I was like,
Mhm.
Just go a little bit darker, just go a little bit darker."
Yeah. So I don't know if you have ever read Olivia Ryan, who is also
No.
me. But she, for about 2 years, I had my Olivia Ryan collections out. I don't have them; they're not published anymore.
Mhm.
But that was the darkness level that I think you might like. Um, she did a lot of her thing was captivity. She wrote like
Ooh.
captive romances, which I found them really I don't know, very interesting. And also
Mhm.
she did those same trilogy kind of formats. So
Mm.
yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, look forward to I can't say out loud who I'm going to co-author with next, but
Okay.
I definitely I want to really bad because
Okay.
I feel like me and this other person are going to be like right exactly what you're right up your alley.
But I did wanna ask you about where did you get this idea for your Denmark Royal series? Because I am obsessed. I
Hmm.
love that series so, so, so much. Stellan, kind of a butthead, but I love Eric. I love, Lars. Royal Fake Fiance was probably my favorite.
Really?
Oh my
Um.
god, those 2 were, like, going at it, like, every single I was like, "I love this." Like, the whole Momsy situation and, like, her
Mhm.
machinations throughout the series. Because I read it out of order. So I think
Mm.
I started with, like, Stellan and Margot's novella, and then I
Mhm.
just kind of jumped. I kind of just like jumped around. I think I read Eric's book next, and then Lars, and then Stellan. So I
Mm.
already knew like how things ended up. So it was like cool to like see that progression backwards. So where did that idea for that series come to you?
Let me think. Oh my gosh, it's been huh, it hasn't even been like a year since I started writing that book, that first Stella and Margot storyline. But it's I'm very bad at keeping that kind of like inspiration in my head. So let's see what I knew I wanted to write about royals.
Mhm.
I knew that I developed an id list. I don't know if you know what that is, but Dr. Jennifer Barnes writes about that a lot. Write
Mhm.
about id lists a lot. An id list form is like a formation of whatever makes your pleasure sensors like light
Mm,
up. That's what your id list is.
okay.
Um, and I wrote down um basically everything that was on my id list, and that um yeah, I mean, just like the royals, everything that was basically, I'm sorry, I just like, yeah, just luxury
Mhm.
is what came of it. So yeah, that sort of started me on the path of writing the Dirty Royals. So mhm,
Oh, okay. Because like
yeah.
I absolutely loved it. It was like I can't think of another royal like romance series I read that was quite like this one. I was like, well, I was like, oh, Denmark. I was like, oh, okay. I'm so used to like my English. Sometimes you get like I know. I think there's a Scandinavian one that's
Mhm.
out there as well. So like I was like, I really liked I really like being like in a different royal setting, and like the books like your writing style is so incredibly readable. Like I pick up your books and like 2 seconds later I'm like, I think I finished my Royal Fake Fiance in like an hour or
Oh,
two.
really?
I was in it. I was in it. I was like here for this couple. I was like Stellan is being a butthead. Eric what Eric it's just like I think like Eric's book, like kind of like I was like, okay, I'm really gonna like this series. And then got to Lars, I was like, I'm done. I'm done for. Like I absolutely love it. I love the characters, and I wish we got more books in that world because I'm not ready to say goodbye to those characters. Like, do you have any plans for kind of revisiting that world, like doing a second generation spinoff?
Mm, not at the moment.
Okay.
So yeah, not at the moment. Um, it's hard to. So when I said goodbye to them, I sort of had the billionaire and ballerina thing in my mind.
So to pick up back up where we left off, love your Royal series. Probably one. I don't know. Wild Heart. I'm currently reading it right now. It's like trying to buy for those like for that series because but I love the covers. I love those books. But I also wanted to ask you talk about a little bit more about your new patron series, the Broken Slippers trilogy. So book two is out. I have
Yes.
read both of them, and it is that like some of this like the plot is wild. I love the characters. And I was wondering, like, where did this idea for this kind of ballerina billionaire who ballerina kind of spotlights at a strip club? Like, how did that plot come to you?
Um. So ballet has always been interesting to me. I wanted to write a series about a ballerina for a really long time. So I am know how much you know about me personally, but I have some right-sided paralysis in my body, which hasn't always been here. It's been with me for about 3 years,
Mhm.
and that sort of I think I wrote a lot of my struggles about that in addiction and
Mhm.
obsession. I think that sort of came out in addiction and obsession. But when I decided that I wanted to write a new series that was like kind of dark billionaire of world, I was sort of looking through some family photos of myself, and I found a picture of myself that I was like a little bit younger, like probably 8 years old, and I was wearing a tutu, and I asked my mom, you know, what is it? What is this photo? And she
Yeah.
was like, "Oh yeah, you used to be really into ballet." I was like, "What?
Oh.
No." I like vaguely only have the like slightest memory. And then that sort of gave rise to that. So yeah. So then I just yeah, mm, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but that figurine that gave rise to Kaya, and um yeah, what I'm not sure what else to say about that.
Oh, but that's really cool because like, I devoured the first book, and then the second book dropped, and I was like, "Okay, okay, Vivian's just gonna wreck my TBR. I'm gonna have to drop everything and read it, and then I'm going to get absorbed." And then you leave me on a cliffhanger
Mm,
for book
yeah.
2. I was like,
Hmm.
hold up, when's book th when is the next book coming out?" I was like, "I have to wait that long?" I was
Yeah,
like,
I
"No."
only just began writing the third book, so
Oh,
mhm.
okay.
um, yeah. So in book one, I feel like really built up a lot of their their struggles,
Mhm,
and book two sort of nursed some of their struggles, but also really spent a lot of time on their relationship physically and
mhm,
their I guess a lot of their not not physical relationship, but their relationship as it exists to their relationship is like boss and employee, I guess.
mhm,
Not to give too much away. But yeah, um, the relationship for like her being the dancer, and his relationship with her as her employer, or as the dance instructor, I guess. Um, and then that ends on a obviously cliffhanger, and leads me into, or leads us all into the third book, which I feel like the second book was less, it was more physical, and the third book is really gonna be,
Emotional arc.
yeah,
Okay.
really finishing that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
'Cause the things that you put the heroine through, I love. I don't know how much you, before you went in to kinda decide her family life. That's a very interesting and it's, like, hard to read about because it's so toxic for the heroine,
mhm,
and I love how you added layers that with her relationship with her mother and having, like, a little bit of background on what happened with her mother. I'm keeping it very vague for those who haven't read it, because it just was released, but, I love that, so I was, like, wondering how intentional did you already go into the book already kinda knowing her familial background and kinda
yep,
like her father figure and kind of a little bit of that as well?
yeah. So, I don't I don't know how much, I don't know how I would actually tell a family story that was happy. I don't know if that would make for the most interesting reading,
Mhm,
but essentially, in any family story that I do end up telling, um, in my books, I formulate the story by basically being like, what is the most interesting thing that I think could happen? Which isn't the most like, they aren't that happiest stories. But
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, because like, there's a moment in book 2 where I was like, "Oh, no." I was like, "That hurt," but it's like, that whole struggle and, like, how it kinda really set her up on a crash course with Callum, and I
Hmm.
thought at one point in the 2 books where, like, you think the situation is a little bit resolved with the father, and then
Hmm.
it's just like, "Nope." I was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
oh."
Yeah.
I was, like, just reading that, like, having her go through that and to, like, want to achieve her dreams and, like, still very much loves her mother and her sister.
Hmm.
I just love that so much because like, you have this very tumultuous relationship with, like, the heroine and Callum, and they're kinda going back and forth, and Callum had his own issues and
Hmm.
his own, like, very specific kinks when he first when he first meets her. I love when they first meet in the strip club. I was like,
Hmm.
"Oh," I was like, "This is gonna be good." I'm like, the chemistry is, like, off the charts for these 2, but like, I kind of like because it really kind of, like, almost, like, tied me into the book, like, kinda delving into family issues. So I was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
I got the great steam," but I was like, "Oh, I really wanna see how the situation with her family plays out." Like, does her and her mother reconcile? Does her and her father reconcile? How about her, like, kinda evil sister who, like,
Hmm.
I just wanna, like, push off a cliff half the time. I was like, "Oh my goodness." I was like anytime she appeared on the page, I was like and she said something snarky to the heroine, I was like, "Come on, like, just go off on your own place and, like, go do your own thing, like, stop hating." Like, I'm like, "You're the only one that's hating."
Yeah. I think what will be interesting also is, the hero obviously has some serious problems,
Mhm,
family problems, really,
mhm,
when it comes down to it. And what will be interesting for me is finding out how those family problems resolve themselves,
mhm.
um, toward the end of the third book. So yeah,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
'Cause then I also noticed that we're getting, because I followed, I forgot the name of the romance club, but, like, you have another book, Possessive, that's a novella with
yeah,
Callum's brother, Lucas, and isn't it
yeah,
with the
yeah.
best friend of the heroine?
Hmm.
And it's a hate I
So
read the blurb, I was
sorry.
like,
It's with
Manon, I think? Lucas and
Lucas
Manon?
and yeah, and Minon, yeah.
And Manon.
And yeah, it should be interesting.
I was like when I saw the blurb, like, hate, like, I think it was, like, hate, lust to love or something, I
Mhm.
was like, "And Lucas?" I was like, "Lucas is, like, the more, like, normal version of the 2 brothers, like, he's a little bit more stable." So I was like,
Mhm.
"Ooh, he's gonna do a hate-love romance?" I'm like, "Ooh, okay." I'm
Yeah.
really curious to see how this one plays out.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Um, that's next to write on my list. So,
Okay.
yeah. Um, yeah, I have no clues that I can drop. Uh,
No, I was hoping to get some details.
no, I just, I do know that not to give too much away, but I do believe in the third book, in the Broken Slipper trilogy, you should look for Manon to make a not an extreme turnaround in personality or anything, but you should look for her to be a main character or like a
Ooh.
definite supportive side character. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. 'Cause I feel like we didn't get too
Also,
much of her in the first book, so I'm curious to see, like, now that she's getting her own spin-off story, I was like, where is Vivian gonna go with this?
yeah. Also, so there is a gap in my schedule. So I'm writing something for next year, and I'm also writing with another person. Um, something TBD. But
Ooh.
in between that, I have like a whole like a gap for a like a big like thick 80,000 word romance. And I'm
Ooh.
thinking that that the person that might be the most interesting to write about is her best friend Ella.
Ooh.
Who I've like always I like always secretly I started writing this the trilogy, and I got about 10,000 words into the second book, The Dancer, and I was like, I should have written this book about this trilogy about Ella. But like I made a
Oh.
mistake. And not that Kaya isn't interesting, but I find Ella has such interesting motivations, and when I sat down and started writing a little bit of her backstory down, I started being like, Ella's Ella's so I don't know, just like superior in her like in what her backstory is.
Mhm.
So yeah, that I think we have to we can probably look forward to an Ella Ella story as well. So
Ooh, I'm so happy you are getting more from this world. If I can convince you to go back to the Denmark royal world
mm,
and just, like, pump out more books, like, in that world, 'cause I need to see what Lars and Pippa are getting up to. Pippa is my favorite character. I love Pippa so
oh
much.
really? I love Pippa too. Um actually maybe she's my favorite character. Um yeah, I had actually the same kind of thing when I was writing Margot and Stellan, and I was like, in the back of my mind, it was like, this book should just be about Pippa. Every book should be about her. Yeah, I don't know, but I think I think I wrote in, so Annika's best friend, Kalindi, does have a potential storyline. So that's still unfinished as yet.
Ooh.
So yeah. Theoretically, one
You could
day.
come back to that
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I just like I think that writing, I don't know, it just like everything is very fast moving in my mind, and I'm already like overwriting the embrace. Like definitely I have a lot of things left to wrap up in this world with um sorry, specifically with Kaya and her whole family. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's almost on autopilot, right? Like it's
Mhm.
everything just needs to be wrapped up easily.
Mhm.
Um yeah. And I'm already in my mind, I'm already like writing Manon's story or Ella's story. So I don't know.
Oh, okay, that's
That's
cool. Like,
usually how it goes for me.
because I feel like when I read your books, there's like an incredible readability to it that you could just pick up and just like fly through it. Because like you're like, okay, next chapter, next chapter, next chapter. Because the
Mhm.
characters are so interesting, and one of the things that I love when I can find in a romance is where I actually remember who all the characters are, and I'm like, because when I read the novella and I was, like, already hyped up, I was like, "I hope it has a book." I was like, I just read the novella and I was like, "Okay, I don't like, I'm fine with Stella and Margot, like, I can get to this story some other time." I was like, "Let me find," like, and I found Pippa's book and I was like, I was so incredibly happy, like, I love seeing, like, getting to, like, "Okay, what's the side character gonna do? What's their romance gonna be like?" I was, like,
Mhm.
kinda, like, thinking in my head, like, how Pippa's book was going to go, and I was, like, completely I was so shocked. Her backstory and, like, kind of the mystery intrigue that you infuse in there,
Mhm.
and the romance, I was, like, "Oh, man," like, so I was, like, wondering too, how do you kind of, go about, like, setting out the romantic beats of the story? Do you have to, like, know the characters first? Or then you
Ew.
kinda have to or did you have to know the plot first before you can write the characters?
I have to know the characters first. So it's funny that you actually asked. I actually have this here, which is, um, it's my very, very ratty version of this book. So the emotional wound thesaurus is like my go-to
Mhm,
for when I'm plotting a character. I just like read basically the entirety of the specific childhood wounds
mhm,
section, and then I like think about it. Usually takes me about 2 or 3 days to come up with a character.
mhm,
Um, and then once I start to fill in the hero and the heroine, one of them usually either comes to me, either I have a very good idea of who the hero is, or I have a very good idea of who the heroine is.
mhm,
And I like can kind of base the whoever I have in my mind, I can kind of look at the lack. I guess I feel like I'm explaining this very badly, but I like can kind of base their partner off of like whatever they're missing, right? Like whatever they
mm,
need.
mhm,
Um, yeah, that and I feel like the 6 or 7 days of character creation and a, like outlining are one of the worst days to be friends with me, because I feel like I can't really I like do all of this like 3 or 4 hours a day of outlining, and then I'm just like lay on the floor and just like wail, like make odd noises. It, I just
Yeah.
creation, right? So
And
yeah.
it shows so much through your work. Like I immediately identify with the characters. I'm like, okay, we're going on this trope or we're doing this plot. I'm like, but I just like, especially when I see the other characters pop up, especially in the Royal series. I'm like, oh, it's Annika. Like, oh, or like immediately like calling back to like their books. I'm like, oh, I remember this romance. Or like I remember Eric and like Stellan's dynamic. I love
Mhm.
that so much because it almost adds more to the rereadability factor. Because like, I just
Mhm.
wanna go reread Pippa's book now because I just love Pippa so much. I think Pippa deserves the world, she's my favorite. Annika is a close second, and I love Eric, I love that romance, the whole
Mhm.
and, like, whole his like, him like, Stellan romance, I was like, I wanted to kick Stellan in the butt so many times, I'm like, "Come on, get it together, you guys. You and
Yeah.
Margot, like, you guys don't know you both have problems." I'm like, just make up already." Like, they were putting me through so much angst, but I love your characters, and I cannot wait to see more from the Broken Slippers world, like, the chemistry is there, the characters, this is, like, a little bit more darker and more grittier in terms of, like, what the
Mhm.
characters are going through, and I'm like, "I'm eating this up." It's giving me, like, Tiny Pretty Things that was, like, a show on Netflix,
Mhm.
but, like,
Yeah.
more romance heavy. I was like, and I'm just
Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely loving it, but I do have another question.
Okay.
Will you be finishing all the audiobooks for your Royal series? Because I
Yeah.
think only the Wicked Prince is available in audio.
Yeah. Um, unclear.
Okay.
Unclear about that. I don't want to say anything that is gonna get me in trouble.
Oh, no.
So yeah, I just TBD. Yeah, on that.
Oh,
But I definitely I do want to finish the Dirty Royals in audio. That's something that is on my to-do list. It's just like a little lower down than like, you know, like the 5 things that I like have to write right
mhm.
now. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I was like, if you want to prioritize the Broken Slipper trilogy in audio, that would like completely slap, and that'd be so good in audio. Especially there's some scenes that I'm imagining those look like on audiobook. And I'm like, oh yes.
Yeah. So the Broken Slipper trilogy, the only thing with that is I have to find a couple that work well together
Hmm.
um, to record the audio and dual narration. So
Hmm.
I don't know. It's coming.
Whenever it
So.
comes, just let me know. I will drop everything and re-listen to them because I would say like that it's coming for the Royal series. Like in my mind, it's like the trajectory is hitting there. I'm like going like, but I love Pippa. I love the group of characters so
Mhm.
much, but like these group of characters, I was like shocked how quickly I read book two because I was just like, okay, I'm in it. I'm like, oh man, how am I already 20 chapters in? Feels like I barely
Mhm.
started reading it because like it's so good. The characters, the romance is all there. And one of the things that I love about your books is that I find sometimes I can't find in a lot of other romances are like why the two characters make sense together. Is the chemistry there? Why do they have these feelings? Like, is it just insta lust and there's no work in actually building that into or turning that into love? And sometimes I feel like some romances miss that step. I always feel like I get that, like you get an initial spark with your characters, but then I get
Mhm.
by then I'm like, okay, they really are meant for each other. There's a really great love story amidst the like insta lust aspects, and then like you really kind of bring it home and like really make a really satisfying read. So like I'm addicted to your books. I'm 100% usually like an audiobook listener. But I was like, I read the Royal series, like, just straight off. I was like, I'm addicted. Like, I can't stop right now. And that's like a really good thing. And then the Broken Slipper trilogy, binge that like in a couple of days. So I was like, you happy? I'm a loyal reader. Whatever you publish, just let me know. I'll pre-order it and I'll wait for it to hit my Kindle.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. That's the best thing that you can say to an author. So,
Yeah. And I was also curious, I want to pick your brain. Are there any other like type of subgenres that you would want to do within romance, like paranormal? Would you like to do like an MFF, or is there any like tropes that you wanted to tackle that you haven't been able to tackle yet?
so I actually started off writing when I started off writing romance. I started off writing paranormal romance.
Really?
Because I don't know. I don't think we talked about this, but I love the Nalini Singh as much as you do. I feel like. So I was reading um one of her books back in, I'm gonna say 2010.
Mm.
Um, I was like, I mean, anybody can write this, right? Like anybody can do this. This is like dummy dumb stuff, and I then tried to write one, uh, failed completely, because it turns out it's much harder.
Harder.
Yeah, 100%.
Hmm.
It's yeah. I mean, like I didn't even know about. I mean, I feel like I knew what the hero's journey was from creative writing in college, but I didn't know that much about it. And yeah, so anyway, the point of the story is that I finished that book, wrote about um, 12 more werewolf romances.
Okay.
And like that really, they were all like very into lust because I don't know if you know much about that sort of like werewolf romances, but they're pretty much all of them are into
Hmm.
lust, right?
Hmm.
Um, they're like very primal and like they're
Like, you're my
all about
mate.
like, yeah, I can smell my mate and
Mate.
that kind of stuff, which is fine.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But also, then I kind of like was like looking around. I was like, Bad Boys got cool, whatever year that was, 2014 or 2015. I was looking around. I was like, it looks like something that would be fun to write.
Hmm.
And it was. So yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So like, would you ever want to like dip your toes into like historical fiction, or maybe I mean historical romance, or like romantic suspense, or would you want to go like
Um,
in further on the deeper end and do like menage, reverse harems, or those type of romances?
so I I've been writing for a long time. I don't know. Vivian Wood has been around for, I'm gonna say 8 years, but um I've been writing romances for 12 or more years.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
Under
I
different pen names?
yeah, under different pen names, but also a lot of my early stuff has been unpublished because I don't know. I just like find a lot of that stuff, they weren't good. Yeah, that's fine. That it's fine that I needed a couple of different pen names to like kind of grow on.
Hmm.
So, yeah. Anyway, so I've written Menage, I've written Erotica, I've written obviously I've written Erotica. I've written, I don't know, a lot of different things. I do love historical romance. However, I don't know how you would even get a foothold in that world.
Mhm.
I find it very alluring. Although I'm sure that I would write it for a couple of years and then get bored of it.
Mhm.
So, because that seems to be my thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was
Anyway.
like, if you ever want to do historical, like, just do a dark historical, like, I haven't found too many books like See a Ruin by Pam Godwin that came out last year.
Oh my god, I
It's like
love
this
that book.
dark historical, and I was like, I
Mhm,
never read another historical like that, and I was like, I
mhm.
want more.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Here's my personal problem is I suffer from author ADHD, where I see I read a book and I'm like, this book is so good. I like just want to write something exact. I mean, not exactly like it, but like I want to write that. You
Mhm,
know, I want to write like I want to be part of that world. And that's really my struggle is being like, okay, I know I should write like the third book in my Broken Slipper trilogy, but I'm really interested in, whatever
mhm.
I'm reading right now. So,
Oh, okay.
um, I suffer from a little bit of like shiny object syndrome where I'm like, oh look at
What's
that.
that?
I mean, I could totally write that. Like, I wrote I don't know if you know Amelia Wild, but she and I wrote about 2 years ago when there were all those like high school kind of what were they? Not reverse harem.
Like bully romances?
Yeah, yes,
Mhm.
exactly. So she and I wrote one of those because I was just inspired and like I like sat down and like wrote a skeleton outline. I was like, yeah, I really just like need someone to write this with me. And she's like, okay, because she's Amelia. She's very nice. Um, and yeah, we just like did that because that sounded cool. But like again, that's that was really an expression of like what we're interested in, but like did not represent what my audience was interested in at all. So,
Mm, mhm.
mhm,
And I think that's the interesting balance, especially that you mostly see in the indie romance community. Like,
mhm,
readers sometimes have, like, authors, some authors have, like, a very set brand, and
mhm.
if Pam Godwin came out with, like, a closed door, very sweet romance, I would've been like,
Yeah.
"Wait, what? Wait, what?" It's like if you wrote a closed door romance, I'd be like, "Vivian, are you okay?"
Yes. I mean, obviously, if I ever do write one, clearly someone needs to come into my house and check on me. Make sure I'm okay, make sure aliens haven't taken me over. Um, yes.
I was like, so I definitely see I see that more in the indie community where readers and authors, especially in the indie world, are much more like authors in the indie world listen to the readers, and sometimes they'll go like, "We really want this book," and then that's the next book that gets published, and I love that we can have that more of that collaboration, and I love
Yeah.
your books so much. I also wanted to ask, would you ever consider republishing some of your older titles that you unpublished and rework them or in any way and publish them under Vivian Wood?
Um, maybe my job is a lot about choosing what the best investment of my time is, which is
Mhm,
like not what I thought that being an author would be about. Honestly,
mhm,
it isn't. Um, so in the scheme of things, it would probably take me months of my life to like republish. Uh, anything old to rewrite and
Mhm.
republish it. So it would take months.
Mhm.
And that would be months that we would not hear anything like, you know, sorry. That would be like, let's say it took me 3 months to write to write and publish something old. That would be 3 months that I would not have the capacity to write something new, right?
Mm, mhm.
So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, but it's a one man operation over here. So I'm just like trying to do the best I can. Um, but yeah, I maybe
Okay.
yeah, hard maybe on that. I think that everyone that reads my books gets like really the best part of my part of me when they read my books now,
Mhm.
but when they read my old stuff, I feel like they get something that was still in progress. So
Mm.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And this might be a little bit of a tough question, but I give you a little bit of an easy way out. So, what are some of your favorite romance books? Or you can go authors if it's a little bit hard to name specific books.
Yeah. I really love Katie Roberts. I
Oh,
love
yes.
what uh the Sea Witch.
Oh,
That
Wicked
was my
Villain
favorite.
series?
Yeah. That one's like my particular favorite. But I actually looked this up earlier because I was pretty sure you were gonna ask me this question. And so maybe, I mean, someday just thinking about it. Okay.
Yeah.
So one book that I've read really recently that I really liked is the Musician by Bella J.
Mhm.
It's a dark romance. I've only read about 5 chapters, but I'm like very into it.
Mhm.
So yeah. No promises for how it ends, but um yeah. Also Bella is very nice. So who else? Oh, I really love um so every once in a while I geek out on like some particular trope or genre,
Mhm.
and when I'm in the mood for mafia, which is like, kind of rare, but if I want something that's like very mafia based, it's like very plot driven, I love Kristen Luciani, um, who is um yeah, she's a an Amazon only like Kindle Unlimited
Mhm.
author, but I just find her plots to be, I mean, just perfect. Um, that's like exactly what I want when I read them. Um, Obviously, I also love J.L. Backen, Cassandra Hallman, or C.
Mhm.
Hallman.
See Holland. Mhm.
Um, yeah, I not only are they the nicest people ever, but also their books are very, very racy. So yeah, they have. I mean, it's very rare that I like flip through a book and see something that makes me blush. It's just like doesn't happen a whole lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like them. Who else? I read someone else recently. Oh, Clarissa Wilde. Um,
I heard of that
yeah,
author. I don't know what
yeah.
book.
I mean, she has a lot of them, but um she just published. Let's see. She just published either Dark Wish or Dark. I think Dark Lies was the name of the book. and I like have read the first two as quickly as possible. And yeah, I find her work to be like very artfully erotic. So yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
Also, obviously, I worship Skywarn. So anything that
Mhm.
she writes, basically what I wish I was. So someday.
I feel bad, I haven't read any Skyrim. I have a ton of her books, but like, they're sitting on my Kindle just, like, staring at me like, "When are you gonna read us?"
Yeah, I really feel like you're missing out.
I know.
Because yeah, I mean, I would just pick one and then make sure that it's not um the first in a series, because if it is, her books are like crack
No.
cocaine to me anyway. Like, if you read Pepper Winters,
Mhm.
okay. So the first time I ever picked up a Pepper Winters book, I think it was the debt whatever. Oh my
Oh,
gosh. The the
it's
debt something.
I know which one you're talking about. Mhm.
Yeah. I feel like a complete idiot for not actually having research that. But anyway, I picked that book up and I like read it and then was so angry because I didn't realize that her books were like long like series, right?
Mhm.
They're like not trilogies, like,
They're like long series, they're like 5, 6 books.
yeah. And I realized that I got to number 4, and then I was enraged because Pepper Winters had not finished the series yet, and I was like, "What the?" You know, this is back in like 2011 or something.
Mhm.
And I was like so angry at her, even though she had like no idea. Um, anyway, so I feel the same way about Sky Warren books. Although Sky Warren at least doesn't leave you hanging.
Mm,
She just like only puts books out when they have like
but she can
an
release them
ending
quickly.
already written. So
Mm, okay.
she's better than me.
I completely agree. For Winter's books, like, I had to, like, wait for the whole series to be available because I know all the books are gonna leave off on a really good cliffhanger, and then I'm gonna be
Mhm.
angry that I'm like, "Ugh," it just stopped, like, just, like, at the good part. I was like,
Mhm.
"Ugh."
Yeah. I mean, I definitely remember before I was ever a romance writer, when I was just a reader, I remember that anger, but also when fans complain about, oh when people who read books complain about cliffhangers, I'm like, I don't read them. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I like writing cliffhangers. I like it. So.
You did that in the dancer. I was like, I need to know what happens. I was like, "You can't
Mhm.
end it right there." I was like, like I was like, "No, that can't be. There has to be, like, a bonus chapter that's, like, hidden if I click one word where I can see what happens next."
Yeah. Mhm.
I was like, "You're not making us wait too long. You're not, like, traditionally published, so we're, like it's, like, a year or 2 in between
Mhm.
books." And then I forget
Mhm.
everything that happens in the last book. I'm like, I don't wanna go back and read because, like, I just wanna jump into this book, but I know I should, or I'm gonna be
Mhm.
lost when I jump into the book. I'm like, "Oh, wait, what happened in the last book?" Unless,
Yeah.
like, some authors are nice and do a nice little recap. So, like, "Okay, now I'm back in, now I know what we're doing."
Mm. Yeah. So I got several really mean Goodreads reviews for doing recaps.
Mm.
they were like, "Meh." So I just stopped doing them. I was like, fuck y'all.
I appreciate them as someone who, like, forgets plots of books, like, very easily.
Yeah, well,
But it's just
also,
nice to, like,
if
a
you
little refresh.
yeah, if you read like more than a book a week, you like can't remember that. I mean,
No.
maybe some people can. I can't. I I love story. Like I love TV. I love movies. I love books. Like I just like want to be bathed in all of them all the time. But the downside is that I don't usually remember. Like people are
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, remember that movie?" And I'm like, "Was it about
Oh,
Hansel and Gretel?" I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, like, it's sometimes, like, I usually am able to pick up, like, if the author leaves enough breadcrumbs, like, they don't do a full-blown recap, but if you give me, like, a little, like, hint, I'm like,
Mm,
"Oh, okay, that happened." I just need, like, a
mm,
little just, like, a little nugget that I'm like, "Okay, I can, like" I'm like, "Okay, that reminds me of this, and this character was here, and this happened, this" and I'm like, "Okay, we're good." And you just
mm.
start off and I'm like, "What happened in the last book?" I'll still
Yeah.
read it because I'm too lazy to go back to read the other books. Because like, I'm like, I have other books I wanna read too. I'm like, I don't wanna stop and go back and reread
Hmm.
because I feel like I should be able to follow the story enough where I can still get it and get what's happening unless it's, like, epic high fantasy, then, like, I had to start back from the beginning because there's no way I'm gonna be able
Yeah.
to re-jump in a series at, like, book 3 when I don't remember what happened in book 1 or 2.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I feel like the last time I got into high fantasy was I read The Name of the Wind, the whole
Mm.
series.
Mhm.
And then I was like, what? Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was interesting. It was an interesting 4 months of my life that I can never get back. So, I
But
mean,
yeah.
I'm not that I'm mad or anything, but like, I just thought it was gonna end differently than it did. And I'm bratty about it. So
That's what fan fiction. Like we can just write our own endings in our heads
it's
of like what we
true.
think is
It's true.
canon. Like everyone knows in Marvel, Captain America and Bucky, like they happen. Everyone knows in Star Wars that Finn and Poe were a thing. And like Raylo was definitely a thing all the way from the beginning. Like we have our like I have my own fictional fan ships that like even if you don't follow what I want in my head, my ship still lives on.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I there's so many worlds that already exist out there that are already written that I when I like read something that I don't like, I feel like it's okay for me to put that book down and like pick up something else.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just like so many worlds. Like so
Mhm.
like even just fiction worlds, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
specifically in the romance genre, you guys in the indie author community, you keep us very busy as readers. I turn
Yeah.
around with some authors, I'm like, I'm trying my best to get through all of Katie Roberts' backlog. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh my goodness, it's gonna take me it's gonna take me a while. Because like she's like, I turn around like, how'd you already publish 2 books? I'm like, where have I been?
I, I don't know. I do know that I like kind of suckered her into a book of the month club because I was like, I'm obsessed with this author, and if I do this, maybe she'll be my best friend. And then she's an author like everybody else, and it's just like very busy. I'm like, I don't appreciate you having friends or time or like anything to do that isn't hanging out with me. So
Mhm.
I'll let you know how that. how
how
the
that plays
quest
out.
to be her best friend goes. So
Yeah,
yeah.
you have stiff competition. A lot of people in BookTube want to be her best friends to like her recommendations. Like when she says a book is steamy, I'm like, in Katie Roberts we trust. After her Wiccan Villains series, I'm like, I adore you. Like
Mhm.
I adore you. You and Katie should co-write something if you succeed in your request of being best friends. That would be. I think the book would probably be too steamy for Amazon. And all of a sudden, like, oh, it got banned.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Um, yeah, I assume that she's just like has 3 years of like unpublished
Books.
books written,
Oh,
but I don't I don't know. Because honestly, so my friends that are authors barely have their shit together. So and then there's a couple of authors I know, like Maya Hughes, off the top of my head, that have a ton of stuff that is already written. They already have covers picked out for it. They already have like the whole thing. And I'm like, how? Why? Can you donate some of your time? I know that you have a family and a job, but like, can you donate some extra time to like help me out?
mhm. But thank you so much again, Vivian, for coming on my
No
channel. It's been so much fun talking with you. And for everyone who is watching the video, I will link all of Vivian's social media links down below, as well as links so you can go purchase her books. She does have some books that are only on Amazon for through KU, but for the Patreon and the Dancer, you can get those at a various different ebook retailers. So like you're not only limited to Amazon, you have some variety. Highly recommend you check out her audiobooks. They're really, really good. But thank you again, Vivian, so much for coming on my channel. And I'll catch you guys all with
you.
a brand new video. Bye
Bye.
everyone.